downtown and uptown. To discuss this does everyone remember what we said last time?
Word for word.
What? Who remembers the Tanakh?
We didn't get that.
What?
Who remembers? I remember. I know.
Who can tell me what Tanakh is? Amishpur is. Does anyone remember? What is Tanakh? Does anyone remember that?
Force. Influence. Pattern of behavior.
Way of behaving.
Behavior.
Right. A better word is a force, but the better word is a behavior. Okay, just quickly to some of the things. We have several words. The word shefa means a force or an influence, a power. The word also or, which really means life, also means a force or a power. Now, Hanhaga really means a behavior, but as far as God is concerned, these two are really the same process. When God wants to do something, when God wants to act in a certain way, He projects a force. So, but Hanhaga really means a certain type of behavior, or it's an activity leading towards a certain objective. That's what the word Hanhaga means. Shefa or all really generally refer to the force itself, the power which emanates from the Baruch Shem to produce those kinds of objectives. It is important to familiarize yourself with these words, and there are reasons for that, because I want to throw these words around more loosely. I want to do that, and I want to train you to think in terms of Ashkafa. There are certain words that will be used over and over again. There are not that many. I don't think there are more than 25, 30 words. That's it. That's really most of the vocabulary that involves Ashkafa. It pays to learn a couple of these words. You see, it'll also give you a much deeper grasp of the material. Now, we said there's something called Hanhaga, or the Hanhaga. Hamishpat. The word mishpat, what does the word mishpat mean? Who knows what the word mishpat means? Judgment, justice. There's another word also which means judgment or justice. Din. There's a slight difference between the two. But for our purposes we'll say it's din. But the word that we use is this word, mishpat. Hanhagas ha-mishpat is the behavior of God, or the force, or the series of activities which God does, which the Baruch Shem does, in order to achieve a certain objective. The objective in this case is mishpat, or justice. You see, but it's not justice that we're really talking about. It's based on everything we said last week. See, and what is Hanhagas ha-mishpat really, technically? Okay. Who remembers what this is? Who remembers what that is? Right. This you must remember. I don't care how you do it. You've got to learn this word. I'm going to throw this word around like it's thrown out of style. Okay. This is a very critical word. Nama de Sufa. Okay. It's what it means, bread of shame. And essentially, it refers to a certain inability on the part of the neshama, right? This is Nahama. This is Sufa. Okay, that's how you spell this. And there's a. You all know what neshama means, right? Neshama means soul. Okay? Now last week we did a very critical analysis of the soul, of the neshama. And we said that the neshama, the soul, has a big problem. And its problem is called Nama de Sufa. Why is that a problem of the soul? Okay, remember we said also certain things about that God created the world in order to be native, in order to do its good. But in order to do that, He has to create a recipient, someone to receive, right? Something that's called in Hebrew a mekabel. A mekabel is a receiver or recipient. Okay? That's where the word Kabbalah comes from, by the way. To receive. It refers to a position also. The Baruch Shem needed a mekabel, a receiver, you see, for His hope, for His goodness. Very far before.
He doesn't have any business with
I will always translate that. Don't worry. God, who in essence is infinite goodness, wants to give that goodness to a recipient, to someone to receive it. That receiver is called a makabel. Now, who was that receiver? Who was that fortunate being that was created in which to receive it? The neshama, the soul. God created the soul, which is a certain type of entity, which has substances. Its substance is ruchnius. Ruchnius means spirit. It's composed of spiritual substance. What is that like? We don't know. What we do know is that it is beyond sensory experience. In no way can we ever see it, hear it, feel it, smell it, or touch it. It is impossible. But it is substance nevertheless. You see, that's what the neshama is made of. The neshama is an entity which is made of this type of material called ruchni. It would be very good when we take out all these words to construct a glossary. If someone can do that, and then when we have enough words to hand it out, that would be a very good idea. Because I don't, there should be an official note taker here. Who can we rely on to always take down the words that we put out? What? Who can we rely on here to take down these words? And Eli? Can we rely on you? Is that possible? What? Just today.
Better than everyone else. No one says notes before.
And that's an incredible contrast between the men and the women. The women sit there, all of them. Straight down these words, really. And because I want to make a glossary, really. Ruchni means spirit. Ruchni means spiritual substance. That's what it means. Spirit. God created an entity called the neshama. Okay? That neshama is made of ruchni, spirit. And He says to the neshama, I'm going to give you the hatava, the goodness in which I want to give you. And we have not described really what that goodness is. If you notice, I can strictly avoid it. We had a whole long shiur on that, a very powerful shiur on that. And I will go again, we will discuss that again in the review shiur. I can't just, but there's a certain type of enormous ecstatic experience that the neshama is capable of and what God wants to give it. What the nature of that ecstasy is a whole discussion in itself. It's a very deep, extraordinary deep thing, what that is. Now, what we said was that there's a problem. Why? Because in order for a neshama to receive that goodness, it has to be aware of itself. It has to have self-awareness, you see. Obviously, in order to appreciate that it's getting something. But self-awareness is a very unusual thing to create. And if you remember, what we said is that for God to create another being which is aware of itself is almost, but not quite, tantamount to creating a being which is literally separate from Him, which is a staggering thing. It's almost creating a being which is almost, in a sense, beyond His pale or His power. Why? Because He's creating another being who then turns around and says, you, me. Well, the ability of another being to say, you, me, means that there's an aspect of this being which is separate from God. Because it's able to look God as an object. Just like when God creates the neshama, God looks at the neshama as an object, right? An object. Suddenly the object turns around and looks at God as an object. Which means that the neshama now has a very unique quality, you see, which is something it possesses as separate or individual, unique from anything else. That's the self-awareness. It's the ability of the neshama saying, I know that I am. I know me. I know that I am, and I know that which is outside of me is an object or separate from me. That is an extraordinary quality. And what we said last week was that quality of self-awareness is the gift from the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. It is, in a sense, His image. When the Torah says that God said, let us make man in our image, you see, image means self-awareness. So, The Rebbeinu therefore created neshama with self-awareness, who has the capacity to appreciate the goodness in which he wanted to bestow. Yeah.
Everything is created comes from Him, and we have self-awareness because we come from His roughly. So why doesn't the object also have the self-awareness? Since it's also made up of particles and atoms.
What do you mean, ruchnius? God is not made of ruchnius. God is not made of spirit. That's number one.
Ruchnius is made up of
No, God is not made of ruchnius.
Our ruchnius.
The Rebbeinu creates different things, you see, and certain things He gives the sense of self, and to others He does not. And the neshama He created, and to the neshama He gave it the ability to be aware of itself. You see, but there are things He created do not have that ability. A chair. Well, these things are composed of physical substance, but in any sense, He doesn't give it the ability to know itself. It just is. It is what we call an it. If you have self-awareness, you say you are an I. I. You can say I. If you can't say I, then we say it. It. We refer to it as an it, an object. Whose question? Got it? Oh. The person creates certain things which are it, they're objects, without self-awareness, and certain things called I. Well, those are my terms, which have self-awareness. And any being which has self-awareness can say, I, me. I know that I am. Yeah.
Thinking of any part of the body, for example, your hand. Right? You look at your hand, you are not your hand.
No.
Your hand has an awareness of its own.
Does it?
Sure.
Your hand can't turn around and say,
Now, wait a minute. No. I'm just... Right? It has an awareness of its own. Now, it has awareness of its own because it is connected. Right?
No, I don't. How does that...
So, no, what I'm saying is in that same example, if we are connected, right? We are connected to God, right? But we're not aware of it. Well, why does it have to necessarily be that we're not aware of it?
Aware of what?
That we are connected, that we do have this connection, that you're emphasizing now that we have our own selves and we think we are separate, right? So my hand theoretically could think it's separate.
I don't understand why you say your hand has self-awareness.
Because it has an awareness.
Where do you see it as an awareness? What has
Because it can touch things, right? It has an awareness. It does.
No,
Awareness goes from the center of awareness to the fingertip. So there's an awareness there.
No, the hand has no awareness.
Okay, but
No, the hand has,
We
the
can
hand
cut
has
off
no
the-
awareness at all. When the hand touches something,
Yeah.
it's simply a physical act. And what happens is the
That's
nerve,
it, yeah.
the nerve cells and so on respond to certain types of pressures and so on, and impulses, electrochemical impulses are sent up through the nerves into the brain. It is the brain which creates the awareness and the entire sense of self. But the awareness is not in the hand. It feels like that, but it's just a mistake. It's a mistake. You see, the hand has no awareness itself. You feel. That's an illusion, and we're going to get into that. It's an extraordinary illusion, you see. Everything takes place up here. Everything takes place up here. For example, you see me, right? I'm an image. Where is my image? Is it in your eyes? No. That image is in your brain. It is the brain which creates the image. When you touch something, you feel something. Well, where is that feeling? That feeling is not in the hand. It's in your brain. You see. When you hear something, you're not hearing something which is in your ear. You're hearing it's your brain which is producing sensation, which is a subjective feeling of what we get when we connect with reality, is all in the brain. Technically speaking, and this is, which is a philosophical question, because of the fact that everything is in the brain, how do we really know what's out there? That's really the question. Okay, the opposite, you see. In other words, the truth of the matter is, when I touch this, right, and I feel a certain feeling, that feeling is not in my hand. You see, it's not from the object. That feeling is in my head. It's in my brain. My brain is producing this kind of subjective thing that I have this kind of feeling. So the truth of the matter is, what really is the nature of this object? You see me. You all see me. You see, I'm an image in your head. In your head. What am I really like in my reality? No one knows. You will never know, nor will I. You see, the only way that you will ever know me is through your head. It's through the image which is produced by your brain, you see, and what your awareness sees it as an image, you see. But what am I really like objectively by myself, outside of your head? You will never know. Because it is the nature of self-awareness that it relates to reality through itself only. You don't really connect with reality by itself. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? This is very subtle. And the reason why it's so subtle is because you've been taught, you see, a small infant, 3 months old, has an exact knowledge of what I'm talking about. Our problem is that we've grown up with such habits that we think that our images and our feelings and our sensations are outside of us. We think. See this pen? We all see it, right? We see an image of it, right? We think that the image that we have is really, it belongs to the pen. You see what I'm saying? We see the pen is long, it's blue at the tip, it's gray here and so on. We think that that image, which is in our head, belongs to the pen. It's like the pen, the image belongs to the pen, and my head sees the image, sees the pen. I don't see the pen at all. What I see is simply an object which sends certain light waves to my head, and my brain produces an image which then I say belongs to the pen. But it's my brain which produces the image of something long, blue, and so on. It's in my head, that image. But I say it belongs to the object, but it doesn't really belong to the object. I don't know really what the nature of this object really is intrinsically by itself. I only know what my brain says to me about that object. You see, now obviously the object is responsible for what's in my head, because it's sending some kind of impulses, some kind of messages. But these messages are something which I produce. And the production is something which is privy to me. And I say that I say, well, this image belongs to the pen.
By extension, you can even question whether there's an object there at all.
Yes, and philosophers do. There's between what's called idealism and realism. There's a tremendous argument between philosophers. Is there something out there or not? That's a ridiculous argument. Obviously there's something out there. But the reason why it is because of that, you see. You know, a baby when he's 3 months old, what goes on in the head of a baby at 3, an infant at 3? What do you think goes on? You see, an infant at 3. You know, an infant looks at the world, right? What does it see? It's very amazing. An infant looks and sees all these things swimming in front of its eyes. Now, an infant has absolutely no idea that there's a reality outside of it. You know that? It has no idea. It doesn't know what these things are. An infant can look at you and see this whole thing. It has no idea of the meaning that really this image that I have that's composed is really attributes itself to different people. It doesn't know there's something called people. It takes a baby from 6 to 8 months to begin to realize that, wait a minute, there's somebody else out there, there's something called out there. All the baby knows for the first 6 months is its own sense of self. Its own sense of self pervades all reality. All it has, the baby has, is self. And the sensations that it has no meaning. It doesn't know what these things are. When it hears noise, it doesn't know what noise is. It has no idea that noise is coming as a response to something outside. You see, it sees an image of its mother, but it has no idea what that is. It just looks and it sees like this funny thing, these things swimming around. It doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know there's an outside reality. It sounds strange, doesn't it? Because we're also accustomed, you see, to an outside reality, but what we forget is that you have to learn that there was an outside reality. Well, why do you have to learn there's an outside reality? The answer is because as far as we are all concerned, we all have our own private little world. Each one of us has our own private little sensory world in which we construct. For example, look at this pen. How do you and I know that we are looking at we have the same image of it? Can we really ever know? No. I can't get into your head. Well, you'll describe it, right? I'll describe it. But can you and I be absolutely certain that you and I have the exact same image? No. Because an image is a subjective mental experience. You see. An image, every sense, is a mental experience. It's something that goes on up here. You see. You and I will never know if we're really looking at this thing in the exact same way. We relate to reality through mental experiences. That's all. And mental experiences are essentially the product of self-awareness. That's all we are. If you really think about it, all we really are is self-awareness. It's just very difficult to accustom yourself to this. Every one of your senses, you see, is an aspect of self-awareness. That's all it is. And it's something that's going on in your brain, you see. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? It's very important to know that. Because we've got to begin to destroy the illusions that you all carry around. And the most important illusion that you carry around is that, wait a minute, there's something really out there, and I know what that is out there. I got a grasp on the intrinsic nature of what that reality is. You have no grasp on anything. All you have a grasp is on the images that your head creates, the sensations that your brain creates, the mental experiences that your mind creates, which says that as far as you're concerned, this is what reality is represented by. You create the images, the mental images, which represent reality. That's all. Reality is represented in our head by a series of feelings and sensations. But that's not reality itself. We will never know what the true nature of reality is. Do we all understand that? Very critical. This is the beginning of the destruction of what the great illusion is, that you have some kind of control on reality. We're going to go into this much more deeper. But is there any questions on what I said? Therefore, the arm has no awareness. There's no awareness for the arm. It feels like that. You know, it does. I told you, so it feels like the sensation is down here. It's not down here. It's in the head. It's a mental experience. You see. But the illusion is if it's... Okay, the illusion is if it's... Here it is. It's got a sense of distance. No. You see. That's not where it's at. Which means that all of sensation, the entire self, is contained in a pivotal point in the head. And it's that sense which experiences everything. And those experiences are all mental. And they are the representations of what reality is. You see what I'm saying?
Is the neshama located in
No. Not as far as we're concerned. You see. The neshama...
Isn't there a phrase in neshama to the mind?
Yeah, but it's not in the head. What the neshama really is, and what the neshama really is, what it really is, and where it is, we will discuss this later on. You see, but what the neshama is in you is a very, very critical thing. We have to begin to go analyze, and we're going to do a little bit today. What is the nature of human consciousness really? What are you really? What do you mean when you say I am? I'm a person. Who are you? What really are you? When you get down to it, what are you? And until you get a good grasp of what you are, you can't really understand who God is, because that's the whole thing. Who am I with respect to God? Now, this was a critical problem of the neshama, because the neshama says, hey, wait a minute to God. I can't take what you want to give me. You want to give me some goodness, some ecstatic experience? I can't handle it. Why not? Because of the fact that I'm a self, I have a certain independence and an individuality which in a certain way I even feel is beyond you, because it's mine. Of course, it's not really true, you must remember, but it's got that sense. And if I feel that in some way I contain something in myself, and I'm unique and individual, then I can't take something. On the contrary, I want to give, you see. To the extent that you contain an element in your being, which is what? Separate and independent. To that extent, it is not a taker, it is not dependent, it's independent. And to that extent, you don't want to take, you want to give. Because take a look at God. In essence, what is God? Can God take? No. Why? Because God is the essence of all reality, hence God already has everything. God doesn't need to take, He's not dependent on anything. To be dependent on something means that you have a lack, you have a need of some sort, which you acquire outside of you. God doesn't have a lack or a need because nothing is outside of him as such. Hence, God, in essence, is absolute independence. We will understand this much better in a week or two when we go to the review, when I begin to review about the nature of God himself. But that's the thing. Now the soul says, and the Neshama says, wait a minute. If I'm like you and I have a sense of self, and the sense of self is literally independent because it has an aspect of being which is unto itself, unto its own, and doesn't need from the outside. So it says, then I don't need to take either. That part of my being, that element says, no, I don't want to take, I want to give. You see? So once that's set up, there's a contradiction. The Neshama says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, I don't want. You see, there's a part of me that does want, because there's a part of me, a part of my being, you see, which takes my existence from you. And since I take my existence from you, that part needs. It needs from the outside. I need to take my existence from you. But to the extent that you want to give me this whole goodness, and address it to my self-awareness, I can't handle that because I don't want to take something. My self-awareness is so complete in a sense and so separate unto itself, it doesn't want to take, it wants to give. Hence, the Neshama finds itself as constructed with two incompatibilities. It's constructed from a section which is an it and from a section which is called an I. Part of the Neshama, which is its existence, it needs its existence from God, right? The Neshama wasn't always here, it has to be created by God. Hence, he says, so the existence of the Neshama is an it. And the it part says, give me constantly. But the other part, which is the subjective part of the Neshama, the I, the self-awareness, says, no, don't give me. I am already complete. I don't have to take from you anymore, because I am so complete that I can actually see you as an object. That part is separate and independent. So that I part says, I want to give. So the I says, give. Right? And the it says take. Now this is a very big dilemma. What do you do with a being that is constructed in such a fashion? If the entire reason why God created the Neshama was to give it, so that the Neshama would take, should be a recipient, right? And he has to give it self-awareness. Once you give it self-awareness, you create a being which has two different types of what? Processes in it. It has an I and an it, you see. That's called Nam L'Stupa. Nam L'Stupa says that in this incompatibility, you see, this incompatibility is called Nam L'Stupa. Because what it does is the incompatibility of the two sensitive elements leads to the Neshama in a position where it says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, I don't want, I can't take. There's a part of me that does want, but if I begin to take, I begin to feel very uncomfortable. I am distressed. I am uncomfortable, you see. So God says, well look, I want to do good for you. I don't want to give you pain. If I give you pain, if I give you a gift, and that gift causes you distress, am I doing something good for you? Of course not. Right? Even if you enjoy it to some extent, and part of it you feel discomfort, when God gives something, it's perfect. If He gives good, it's got to be perfectly good. There cannot be an ounce of pain associated with it, you see. Hence, if there's a little bit of pain associated with it, God's not going to give it. You see, that's imperfect giving for God. You see, as far as God is concerned, it's an imperfect giving. So He can't give under these circumstances. That problem again is called Nahama Diksufa. And what it is the discomfort which arises from the Neshama, the resistance that the Neshama has, the embarrassment, the busha, the embarrassment, the distress that the Neshama has when it's in a position of taking. Yes, do we understand this clearly? Got to understand this clearly, because this is the building block of the whole thing, that we're going to begin to construct. Yes?
You're saying that there is inherent, irreconcilable interplay between giving and taking on that level? It doesn't exist on this level.
What level?
On this level, giving can be, by taking, you can be giving more than you could actually give.
No, it exists on
otherwise,
all levels.
By not taking.
On all levels. On all levels. Why? Why does it?
You can't think of any levels where taking is actually giving?
No, you can have both.
No, where the taking is actually a giving. Happens with children all the time. Children, a kid comes up to you with a mud pie, right? You take it. You're giving the child great pleasure. You're not taking anything.
Well, that's not really a taking.
Why not?
Taking.
Why not a taking?
We're not talking about figurative taking or just symbolic taking. You're talking about symbolic taking and giving. I'm talking about real taking and giving, not symbolic. If you're really taking something, no human being. Now, where do you see Nama Sufa in us as people? Now you may say, that's a problem of the Neshama. Yeah, but I'm a person. I'm composed of a neshama and the body together. That's what a person really is. I don't got this problem now, super. You know, I'll take whatever you can give me. Right? That's not true. You will not take whatever I can give you. Because every person has something built in is a sense of honor and a sense of self-respect. Every person needs to maintain a self-respect. But how does a person fundamentally maintain self-respect? He feels that I want to build something by my own achievement. I want to have to be worthy or deserve something. You see, why does a person feel that in order to maintain his own self-respect, he has to in some way be worthy of what he's getting? What do you mean be worthy of it? To deserve it, to in some way have created it, or produced it, or been responsible for it. Why? Where does that innate feeling come from? It comes from the problem of Namik Supa. Namik Supa translates itself down on a personal level as a need to maintain one's self-respect.
Why do you think it's
You're born with it. Because you're born with it. Every person has that fundamental need. Everyone, even a masochist. Except that a masochist maintains self-respect in a deviant fashion. But behind it, the need for self-esteem is fundamental in every person who exists. You will never find a person who doesn't have a need for self-esteem. You will find many people who don't believe in themselves, you see, who have a low sense of self-esteem. But you find me someone who doesn't need self-esteem. It does not exist. It's cross-cultural and cross-time. It's a fundamental aspect of human nature. It is the most fundamental psychological needs of a person. A sense of self-esteem, self-respect, to feel worthwhile. And if you tell me that there's such a thing, then you're fooling yourself.
When you use the word psychology, it's a psychological aspect of human being.
Namik Supa translates itself psychologically as a need for self-esteem. But on a spiritual level, it's called Namik Supa. And it starts with the neshama. And when the neshama is placed into the body, it filters down to the level of feeling. You see. So that you experience it as a need for self-esteem. See what I'm saying? That's where it filters down to. Do you have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Why can't the awareness be separated from self-respect?
It's not a question of it. To have awareness is to, once you have self-awareness and you're on that level already, then you want to give. Giving, the need for self-respect is really the need to give. It's really synonymous. That's what self-respect means. I have to give. To whom? To myself. I have to deserve it. I have to give. You've got to do something. You've got to contribute. That's what it means. It really comes from a giving need. Doing, achieving. That's really where it's from. Yeah? No.
I don't know.
It's hard to see. Okay.
Yeah, because so where does awareness fit into this?
What?
What about awareness? Why can't you separate awareness from self-respect? That doesn't. Awareness from giving.
Yeah. Because the point is that awareness itself, once you're aware, right, then there's an aspect of your being which is already complete. It's sufficient. That alone doesn't allow you to want to take anymore. That aspect of being means that you already will resist a certain level of wanting. It's that when we go into the nature of God again, we will have a better understanding of that. But I hear what you're asking. It's not self which wants to give. It's the meaning, it's the relationship of self to existence. When you have self-awareness, you have a certain aspect of reality which is literally independent, you see. And when you possess an aspect of reality which is independent, that aspect doesn't need anything outside of it. Hence it resists a taking process. It's difficult to make myself more clear because we have to go into a whole other thing that we went into before. We're going to go into again about the nature of God. When you see the contrast between God and the neshama and the nature of the existence of the two, you can get a better grasp of that. But suffice it to say at this point. Now, when God wanted to create the neshama and give it good, right? He projected a force with a certain objective. That's called the anhaga. But that anhaga is called the anhaga hatava. What does the word hatava mean? the word hatova means good, right? Comes from the word tov. Tov means good. Hence, the hanhaga, or the activity in which God created the neshama, you see, and the neshama is to receive great goodness, emanates from what's called the hanhaga hatova. That's the power that he used and the objective that he used. The power, the behavior is the hanhaga, and the objective was hatova. Once the neshama was created with this incompatibility, God had to deal with the entire situation in a different way. And what God says to the neshama is the following: I grant you what you have. I grant you your problem. So therefore, I will not give you my goodness as a gift. I will not give it to you as a gift. Free. I will give it to you as a reward. What's the difference between a reward and a gift? A gift is something you take for free. A reward is something that you're given because you've earned it. You achieved it. The Banisham says, I will therefore give you what I want to give you, this toll, not as a gift, but rather as a reward, which means that I will allow you to earn it, to create it, to produce it, you see. That means God says, I will therefore have to create a whole new situation, a whole new set of circumstances, to give you the opportunity to earn this toll. Well, that means that God now has to do a whole new type of creative activity. You see, that's called the Hanogas HaMishpat. You know, the Hanogas HaMishpat refers to those activities from God whose specific purpose is to remove the problem of Nam B'Sifa by letting the neshama earn what it's supposed to have by virtue of its own effort, so the neshama then can claim it on its own. That's justice. That's din. If you have a right, it can claim its tov by right. It has a claim. A claim is mishpat already. You walk into a court of law and you say, this belongs to me. Why does it belong to you? I own it because I created it. That's a claim. That's mishpat. But if you walk over to a gift and say, this is my gift, it's mine, it's a gift, I can't really claim it. I claim it because you gave it to me. But I don't have an intrinsic claim myself. I didn't do anything for it. You see? Hence, the Hanogas HaTova is not concerned with claims. It's only concerned with gifts. The Hanogas HaMishpat is concerned with a claim. That's why it's called Mishpat. Because the essential objective is to make sure that the neshama can take the soul by right, by the fact that it's claimed there. You see? Yes.
Can you explain why?
But the claim is just a claim, but the gift is still a gift.
No, not if it's a claim.
What?
Why?
The gift is still, what is the relationship then between the claim and the gift?
Wait a minute, I hire you to do a
You
certain
understand?
job. I hire you to do a certain job. You do the job, okay? I say if you do the job, you're going to get $50, okay? You do the job. You come up, you want your $50. On what basis? Is it a claim or is it a gift? Tell me, is it a claim or is it a gift?
So, that's not my question. My question is that a farmer plows a field and he puts seeds in the field,
Yeah.
right? And he works very hard, right? And up come vegetables.
Right.
So did he really grow those vegetables? He really grew them, right? Who grew those vegetables? I mean, did he grew those vegetables? He's going to come and say, these are my vegetables. I grew these vegetables. That's not true. Okay, now it's
That's
true he worked
issue.
very hard.
That's another issue.
And he does deserve to have them.
Yes.
But they are still a gift.
No, yes, in a sense, you're right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's
Oh,
no
that's
relationship.
Well, but yeah,
There-
but see, because the point is that nobody, we cannot create the goodness that God wants to give us, right? So from that standpoint, it's a
Yeah.
gift. But
Totally
God
gift.
says, I won't give you that until you work for it. So therefore, I want you to have some measure of claim.
Right? But the relationship between
Yes.
the work and the gift is not a
Because-
cause and it is a cause and effect, but not
You claim the gift.
you're claiming a
claim the
gift. Right. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. You're
But-
not earning the gift,
No, but
but you have a
no,
claim.
you're earning it to gift. You're earning it to claim the gift. Yeah, no.
You're
The point
claiming.
is,
You're earning the right to claim the gift.
Yeah, but the point is, according to them, you have the right to claim the gift.
Right.
That's true. It has to be that way because you don't make the gift.
Right.
You know, that's true. But according to Hanogas HaTova, it's a pure gift. There's no claims. We're not concerned with anything. So Hanogas HaMishpat says, I will give you the ability to have the right to claim the gift. But we don't call that a gift anymore. Do we really call that a gift?
Well,
In our language, do you call that a gift really?
the problem is we don't.
We that as a reward, in a certain sense. In a certain sense, it's a reward, you see. You know what I mean? It's
Not
true.
the Shema.
It's true. No, what you're saying is true. What we're saying is true, meaning the following, is that what actually creates the gift, or the thing that's hold, is Anogat Tova, you see. But Anogat Tova says, I'm going to give you this gift unconditionally, you see. If I give you something unconditionally, that's a gift. But if I say, I will give you something conditionally, you've got to work for it, you see.
So that's another gift.
Well, the actual thing is still a gift, but it's conditional now. God says it's conditional. You've got to work for it. You've got to earn it. It's conditional. In that sense, you have to in some way have a claim on it. You know, God says, I won't give it to you if you don't have an appropriate claim. I don't give you to stand on your head. So it's not truly a gift. If you don't do the work which is necessary to get that gift, you won't get it. Since it's not a real gift, God won't give it to you. A gift is something He's going to give to you whatever you do. That's what it means, a gift. Here, you're a nice guy. That's it. Is that your pen? I'm sorry, I can't give you this. Okay, that's a gift. A gift means I give you this present. You don't have to do anything for it. But I say, I'll give you something, you got to work for it, and so on. Well, what happens if you don't work for it? Do you get it? You don't get it. If you don't get it, then it's no longer a gift. Wait a minute. That's now obviously.
The answer to that is that the reason that we have to have the opportunity to earn it is because we want the opportunity to earn it. So the opportunity to earn it is another gift. Because without it,
yes,
we're nowhere.
The opportunity to be able to earn something, in a certain sense, is a gift. Yes, that's true. It's a gift given to us by God. But we're not referring to this higher opportunity. We're referring to the actual object which you will get, which is the Torah itself. That is what you will get. That must be earned. If you earn it, it is yours. If you do not earn it, it is not yours. If it is not yours, it is not a gift. That's it. That's what Mishpah says. Mishpah says, it's up to you. I will determine whether or not it is appropriate or not. If you don't earn it, it's not yours. I'm not giving you anything. You earn it, it is yours. Mishpah is the assessment or the evaluation whether or not you deserve something or not. Now, deserve what? The toll. What? That's the original thing, you see. Very simply put, in a very simple and basic way, something can be given to you either conditionally or unconditionally. If it is given to you unconditionally, it is said to be the Anogat HaTova. That was the original intention, but obviously the Baruch Shem does not give the Neshama unconditionally the Tov, because the Neshama has got a problem with its own ability to take it. So therefore the Baruch Shem says, so what I will do is, I will put you in a position where you will earn it, and by earning it, this part will be satisfied. Because if you earn it, you won't object to it. You will have given. You will participate in the aspect of the give. You will have given it, yourself, and me, your right to have it. Hence the I will be able to take it. You see. That's what it means. When you earn something, the I allows the it to function. You see. And there's no discomfort. Because you say, yeah, okay, I've worked it, it's mine. I don't mind taking it now because I took it by virtue of my own effort. If I took it by virtue of my own effort, there's a part of me which gains. You see. In other words, I will allow myself to receive if I give in exchange. You see that formula? That formula removes the problem of Namak Sufa. And the removal of the problem of Namak Sufa is called this word. It's a very important word, tikkun. This is a word we'll say many, many times. What does the word tikkun mean? Tikkun means a correction, or rectification. To correct something. It's called the masakin, a tikkun. The tikkun of Namak Sufa means the removal or the correction of the flaw of Namak Sufa is accomplished through the Anogat HaMishpah. By God setting up the circumstances in which the neshama will earn it, He removes the problem of Namak Sufa. Because there will no longer be a problem with the incompatibility of the two. Do we understand that? What? Right? You've got to remember this. Because this You see, because what reason why you gotta remember this? Because this is the beginning of the foundation of the world the way we see it outside. One of the reasons why the world looks the way it does outside is because of Anagat HaMishpat. If God has created our world according to Anagat HaTova, it will be a whole different world. You can imagine, you see. It would be a world where we would simply sit and take without any effort, you see. It's almost like a carnival. I mean, I know what kind of atmosphere we would say. It's like one huge party, you want to say. You see, the world of Anagat HaTova is like a party, literally. I mean, in a certain sense. The problem is that we don't want that party. Well, I don't want a party.
But why did Hashem create us to not want it? He could have given it to us so we could have wanted it the other way. Why did he make it that we wanted it?
That's not what that's meant. That was my question.
You're asking me, where does Nam the Super come from?
Why do we have to want to earn it instead of just being happy to receive it?
Because of the problem of
So
being
why
sick.
is it? Why did Hashem create us that way? He could have created us differently. He could have done anything.
If you're going to be self, you have to have that quality.
If you're going to appreciate it, you have to have self. Once you have self, you're going to have that. You're going to have an aspect of being which
Doesn't want
it doesn't want to.
But didn't he know that when he created
Who?
himself?
Okay. The truth about it is there's a certain validity in your question. There's a certain validity. Was there a way for God to get around it? In a sense. Is there a way for God to get around it? Okay. This question is an advanced question. And you know what that means.
37 number 5.
No. In order to understand, in order to really handle that kind of question, we have to examine certain issues which we will not bring up for quite a while. Because what you're really asking is the relationship of the Neshama to the Bonishim and the sound on a very high.
Are we created to emulate characteristics of Hashem?
Yes.
Is that how we can draw closer to Hashem, by emulating his characteristics? And wouldn't this a characteristic of Hashem give that we have to emulate?
Yes.
Like,
You mean the fact that he's here? Well,
he's allowed us to emulate every single characteristic he has. He tells us.
we can emulate that characteristic only because we already possess a certain aspect in our being, which is an image of him. If you didn't possess this thing, you wouldn't be able to emulate anything.
I know. So
But now that you have it,
the whole point is to emulate Hashem. It's our way of getting closer to Hashem. Of drawing closer to Hashem.
what is the true? Who?
Oh, it's just before it's done. No, you said, I heard you say on the tape that it's like a, flaw.
A flaw in the neshama.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it is. It's a problem. It's an incompatible problem. It's called in Hebrew a flaw. Well, it's called a chesaron. Chesaron means to lack something. Chesaron. A chesaron really is a flaw that comes from a lack. Nam Tzufa is a chesaron. It's a problem, a flaw. Now, what Mark is saying here is, what is the problem? Where does the flaw come from? What's that?
That's a duality.
The-
Inherent duality.
Yes, that's what it is. Right now,
See, once
it
that's
in here?
created,
it is.
it is.
Yes, I present it in such a way. That's why your question is not. That's why, like Shlomo was saying, because where does the soul of Nam come from? It comes from an inherent problem. It's intrinsic in the neshama itself. There's a certain duality in the neshama. That's where it comes from. This intrinsic duality creates an incompatibility. That incompatibility, you see, yields Hanagat HaMishpat. Hanagat HaMishpat is designed to deal with that problem, the incompatibility, you see. Without that problem, we would have had Hanagat HaTova, where the world would have been a whole different place, you see. You all see the relationship of these concepts, how they connect with each other?
So what should we gear ourselves to? Put more of the I, emphasize the I, or emphasize the
No, you can't. Wow. Suffice it to understand it clearly. To understand it, to remember the words, to understand these two Hanhagas. That's the goal. There are two Hanhagas. There's the Hanhagas HaTova, which has one type of objective, and the Hanhagas HaMishpat, which has another type of objective. And the switch from one Hanhaga to the other is due to the problem of Nam Sutra, which is caused by the incompatibility, the dual intrinsic incompatibility within the Neshama itself. See how that goes? In one sentence. It's important to understand that. Now you must remember, and this is very critical. You see, you have to think, learn to think along these ways. What way am I talking about? This is very important. It's going to take time. Nothing happens out there. When I mean out there, nothing happens in reality unless there's an Hanhaga which corresponds to it. Forget it. It just isn't. If it's not in the Hanhaga, it isn't. Do you understand why? Very simple. What?
What does that mean?
Can something exist without God allowing it to? How does God work? So what is the principle of his activity? What is it called? What is that word called? Hanhaga. Can something exist which is outside of his Hanhaga? No, cannot. Which means that all reality must always submit to his Hanhaga. That's a cardinal principle. You see what I'm saying? It comes from the fact that he creates the world. He is the boss. He is the ultimate creator of all. You see. Hence, if he relates with the world, or through reality, through what's called the Hanhagas, nothing can exist outside of his Hanhagas. But what determines his Hanhagas? Wait a minute. The answers are certain specific objectives. You see. Now, that's the critical thing. Whenever you see something going on out there, the question you say to yourself is, wait a minute, why is this happening? Meaning, which Hanhaga is producing this? If you can understand that, you have answered the question of what the purpose of this event is. That's very, very difficult. In other words, you see, I am standing here teaching all of you people. Why? Because somehow we are all within the domain of a certain Hanhaga. We all fulfill a certain objective. Which objective? You see, that depends. You see, God runs the world through several different Hanhagas at the same time. When you look at an event, any event, you always say to yourself, which Hanhaga is doing this? That depends. Your ability to understand reality rests on your ability to be able to find out which Hanhaga is running the event.
Is this zero?
What's that? Those are spheres, yes. But we're not going to go into the detailed level of spheres. Yes. Yes, Shlomo.
So you would say if you see Hanhagas HaMishpat operating, so that is your invitation to give.
No, that's what's operating.
No. That addresses itself to the I, whereas the Hanhagas HaTov addresses itself to taking.
Right. In a sense, yes. Yes. Except that the truth of the matter is, this Hanhaga never operates. This Hanhaga can never operate. Why not? What happened to this Hanhaga, the Hanhagas HaTova? What? This Hanhaga was swallowed by this. This is not a new Hanhaga. Hanhagas HaMishpat is not a new Hanhaga. Is it? Hanhagas HaMishpat really is the old Hanhagas HaTova with conditions. That's all. It simply slapped the condition onto the Hanhagas HaTova. It says give good conditionally. This, therefore, is this with conditions. And this became absorbed or incorporated into the Hanhagas HaMishpat. It's very important to understand that. You see, the Hanhagas HaTova does not exist on its own. You will never find an instance at all where something is given without din, or without earning it. Never. Because it can't.
Does it happen?
What?
Things?
No, forget about them. They're not subject to these particular things. Hatava, in a sense, yes. There are certain things which, yes. A mother's love for a child, in many ways, appears to be that. Yes. But God does not run the world by this hanaga. Everything in this world will be judged, essentially, through mishpat. You see.
Did this happen before creation?
Who?
When did this happen?
Before creation. That's a good point. When all this happened, this happened before creation. Before creation. We're talking about the Buddha shows, if the Buddha would sit down, you see, and say, Kaviyoko, not that he does, but he would sit down and say, let me see now, let me think about this. What am I going to do? And he constructs his game plan, you see, or the design of the rear. This is what he was thinking, to the extent that we can understand. You see. There never was a Hanagas HaTova. Why? Because as soon as he thought to create the Neshama, there was that problem. As soon as there was that problem, there was a Hanagas HaMishpat, you see. So the entire thing already was submitted to the Hanagas HaMishpat at the outset. You see, I have divided it to you, so you should understand the reasoning process. You see what I'm saying? And why we move from one Hanaga to another. But that's the point. There never really was a Hanagas HaTova, except potentially. It was always the Hanagas HaMishpat. And the Hanagas HaTova is contained in the Hanagas HaMishpat. But again, what you must begin to realize, you see, is that out there, the world, reality, is always constructed and conforms to Hanaga. It is impossible to be otherwise. Now, as I said last week, when you look out there, if our world was created by the Hanagas HaTova, what would it look like? Like a party. I mean, whatever it is, all you can say. There would be no struggle, no pain, nothing. Everything would be pure good. Now, is that what our world looks like? No way. So therefore, we see our world as mishpat, justice. But wait a minute. Is our world constructed of justice? Do we see evil people getting their just desserts and good people getting their rewards? No. What does that mean? There's another Hanaga. Do we see why? Because the Hanagas HaMishpat can only, the Hanagas HaTova, each Hanaga is restricted and can only do what it does. The Hanagas HaTova, in its pure form, can only give unconditionally, cannot do otherwise. The Hanagas HaMishpat can only give conditionally. I mean, the Hanagas HaTova gives unconditionally, the Hanagas HaMishpat gives conditionally, you see. But according to the Hanagas HaMishpat, if you're a tzaddik, you get it. If you're a Rasha, you get nothing. That's what the Hanagas HaMishpat says. Now, but you look out there, you see people who are Rishoyim. You know what a Rasha is, an evil person. And yet we see that they're getting a lot of good stuff, you see. In fact, it's one of the big problems. Why do evil people succeed? Why? Now, as we say to ourselves, wait a minute, where is that coming from? It's got to be another Hanaga, because this Hanaga cannot do it. It's not in it. It's not in the machinery. It's not in the machinery. The Hanagas HaTova can't do it. The Hanagas HaMishpat can't do it. The machinery of these Hanagas don't have what it takes. But if this stuff is going on, there's got to be another Hanaga, which does have the machinery. But the question is, what is that Hanaga? What kind of machinery is that? And what is its objective? What is it doing for? It looks like it's doing the opposite of Hanagas HaMishpat. What is that all about, you see? That Hanaga is called the following. The Hanagas, of course, it has to have the word Hanaga, you understand, right? What? This is the word. Hanagas Hayichud. That's what that Hanaga is called. Whenever you see in the works of Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, you will see many times the Hanagas Hayichud. It is also called sometimes the Hanagas Hashlita. Very rarely is it referred to that. Generally, it's always referred to as this.
Yichud is unity?
Yes.
What is
unity?
Shlita?
Shlita means control. Absolute control. Why it's called this, we'll get into some other time. You have to know much more about the nature of the Buddha to understand that. This is Anhaga. This is the mysterious Anhaga, which creates the chaotic randomness which looks in the world. This is it. What we must do, we have our work cut out. What is our work? We must understand what the machinery of this is, and more, what is its objective. We have to understand its objective. We have to understand its instrumentation. How does it work? You see what I'm saying? And three, we must understand the third thing. Even we understand what it wants to do, even we understand how it works, there's one more thing we must understand. How does it relate to what? What is its relationship? What is the interaction? Do we understand the relationship between these two Anhagas? Yes, right? This merged into this and became this. But what about this and that? You see, what is the interactive processes of these two? We understand our three objectives? Yes. I hope so.
that makes Jesus king.
Yes. One of the things, obviously, Dennis isn't sick.
So what tools can we start using?
To figure this out? The only tool is to show up here on time and to go to the share. That's the tools you have to worry about. That's what I say. Okay. Now, I'm going to end the share now. And does everyone understand what we said? In a certain sense, we repeated last week's share. Does anyone?